Welcome everyone to 52 Living Ideas. My name is Evanique and I am moderating for Shrikant tonight. He can't be here. So tonight we are continuing our study of the Bhagavad Gita. Tonight we're going to do chapter 11, verses 47 to 55. Abika is going to do a reading and then Yogeshwar is going to do his commentary. So I will ask everyone to mute. And whenever you're ready. Oh, sorry. Hold on 1 second.
Dylan.
Yeah.
It's gone.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting.
So whenever you're ready, Ambika, hold on. I'm just going to mute everybody and then I'll unmute you. Okay, Ambika, I'm ready whenever you are.
Starting with 47. The blessed Lord said, by me in grace and through my self-yoga is shown to thee, O Arjuna, this, my supreme image, my form of luminous energy, the universal, original, and infinite, my form which is not seen before by anyone other than thee. Neither by the Vedic studies and sacrifices, nor by charities and ceremonial rites, nor by severe austerities can I be seen in this form in the human world by anyone other than thou, O hero among the Kurus. Be not troubled, nor get bewildered in mind by seeing my tremendously awful vision like this. Fear-free and cheer-hearted, see thou again that familiar form of mine. Sanjaya said, having thus spoken to Arjuna, Vasudeva showed him again his own Narayana image. Assuming again his sweet and serene form, Mahatma, the great soul, consoled that frightened soul, Arjuna. Arjuna said, beholding now thy sweet and serene human image, O Janardana, I feel collected and in my wits, rehabilitated in my nature. The blessed Lord said, rare and difficult to see is the form of mine which thou hast seen. Even the gods ever desire to have a vision of this form. Neither by the Vedas, nor by austerity, nor by gift, nor even by sacrifice can I be seen in the way in which thou hast seen me. By exclusive bhakti, love, and adoration, O Arjuna, can I in this way be seen and known in my essential principle, and also be entered into, O Parantapa, Arjuna. Hey, O Pandava Arjuna, comes to me who does. He, O Pandava Arjuna, comes to me who does my work, is heart and soul for me as the supreme, me loving, free from attachment, and without enmity to all existences. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Ambika. Up next, we will have Yogeshwar.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Prasanne Tava Arjunedam Rupam Param Darshitamatma Yogat Tejo Mayam Vishwamanantamadhyam Yanme Twadanye Nanadrishta Purvam. Krishna here, after showing Arjuna his whole full form, and that is far away from the manifest. That was what Arjuna could never have seen if Krishna himself did not reveal himself to Arjuna. Such a form call it a form even, is a bond of language, but that is the formless. And such is what Krishna showed to Arjuna. Arjuna, after seeing all this, he is having an experience that I have been used to forms. I have been used to the manifest. When you show me the unmanifest, it is, my mind cannot grasp it. I have nothing to hold on to when I see that unmanifest form. What is reality? At that time, all my five senses, my intellect, my mind, everything is just meandering around, like they don't have anything to hold on to. The intellect doesn't have a concept to hold on to. The five senses do not have their sense objects to hold on to. And that is what you have shown me. While you're showing me this, because I am so used to having my senses fixed to sense objects, having my intellect fixed to something to hold on to an idea, to a concept, and also having my mind always making an object its own vishaya, its own holding. In that way, at this time, I am afraid, because what I had known as reality before is not. And even though you had told me what reality is, I had not known it until you showed it to me. And then Arjuna asks for Krishna to get back to his own form. Own form meaning that which Arjuna was seeing from before, that which Arjuna can relate to, that which Arjuna can make a relationship with, a relationship of a friend, a relationship of a guru, a shishya, a relationship of a brother, all those relationships. And that is what Arjun's mind can grasp. That's what Arjuna can be okay with. That's what Arjuna can base on. Krishna here says, Maya prasannena tavarjunedam rupam param darshitam atma yoga. What you have seen so far is I was pleased with you and I showered my grace upon you. And I showed my ultimate form to you. And how did I do it? Atma Yoga. I showed it to you. It was not you who could see it on your own grounds, but I gave you the grounds. As Krishna stated that at the start of chapter 11, let me give you the eyes so that you can see the ultimate form. Tejomayam Vishwam Ananta Madhyam Yanme Twadanyena Nadrishta Purvam. How does that form look like? It is Tejomayam. There is so much radiance coming out of it. And Vishwam Ananta Madhyam. There is no start and end to it. Now just imagine a form, something that you're seeing at this time, and it doesn't have a start and an end. Normally, you'll get scared because you always want to, with your intellect, take the start and the end of any object that you know about. There must be a start and end. And how the human mind perceives everything in the world, when that perception is shattered into pieces, that's when the ultimate reality is known. And Arjuna is experiencing this. Krishna is telling him that Yanme tvadanyanan drishtapurvam. That form, it has not been seen by anyone else before you. You're the only one who has seen this form. What it means to see this form and be the only one to see this form is that Arjuna himself, as we have seen in the beginning of chapter 11, Arjuna himself knows that so many rishis before me have seen this form of Krishna. They have known the ultimate. I am not the first one. That's why when asking to be shown the form, Arjuna is saying that that form which so many rishis have seen before, that form which is known by Tattvavid, that form which is the ultimate, let me see it. That's how he requests for seeing the form. But now Krishna is telling Arjuna that no one has seen this form before you saw it. And to put it into context, it is that Arjuna has seen this ultimate form. Because he is on the boundary, when you're on the boundary, there is a mixed experience. You're seeing the ultimate, but you're also clinging back to what was there before. At that boundary, whereby you can't let go of what you were before, and you have not totally yet accepted what is coming. At that boundary point, what is coming will be seen with there will be some sanskara remaining of your previous deeds, of your previous karma. At that point, all that you are, whether it is your intellect, your senses, your mind, everything that you have known yourself to be, will have a reflection on the ultimate. It will have that perspective given to the ultimate, because you're still on the boundary. You still have your sanskaras. You still have that you are supposed to live. At that point, you're looking at the ultimate. You're living, you're trying to live what you were before, jumping into the ultimate. And just before you've jumped into ultimate, you have that perspective that this is the ultimate. That no one else has seen before, because it is made by your sanskara. It is made by your perspective. And the way your perspective is framed, it is unique to you. And the ultimate is just like a mirror. Whatever you want to see in it, you'll see it. Everything is reflected back in the ultimate. It is vast, and it doesn't have a start and an end, and it is exactly like a mirror. When we look into it as we are, then we get our reflection back. We get who we are back. We see who we are. And seeing who we are, then we can get out of our norms or our bodily conditions, our bodily attachments, and then jump into the ultimate. Na veda yajñādhyayanir na dānair na ca kriyabhir na tapobhirugraih evam rupa shakya aham triloke drashtum tvadanyeena kuru pravira. Now, how is the ultimate seen? How do you realize the ultimate? And after realizing the ultimate, how is Krishna telling Arjuna that you can see me? What should you do to see the ultimate? What should you do to recognize the ultimate? the first thing Krishna is saying that, first of all the norms that have been set, everything that has been told to you doesn't take you to the ultimate. So the first condition is leaving everything behind. Na veda yajna dhyaner nadane. Whether you study the Vedas or you study the worship of the yajna, nothing takes you towards the ultimate. Nothing takes you to the ultimate. And even giving donations to so many other people, giving donations to the needy. Now, we would normally have a perspective. It is a good thing. Yes, it is good. To see the ultimate, that is not enough. There is something ahead of that. Nacha kriya bhir natapo bhirugre. Whatever kriya, whatever karma you do, whatever action you do at the peripheral, nothing takes you to the ultimate. Nothing will enable you to take that leap into the ultimate. Natapo bhirugre. Even though you you just take away all that from your body by doing so many I don't know, skipping so much of food or skipping so much of food, water, and depriving your body of so much of senses, still you do not get to that point to jump into the ultimate, because that leap into the ultimate is something so significant. It can't just have these reasons. It can't just have the reasons of the peripheral that it happens. Evam rupa shakya aham nriloke. Now, just imagine something that whatever you do at the peripheral, nothing takes you there. Whatever we know, whatever action we know, there is nothing that can take us towards that. And Krishna is telling Arjuna that such an experience has been given to you, and that is by my grace. Such a form cannot be seen by anyone in this whole world. I have given you this, so revere it. And what you are supposed to do is be graceful about it. Be happy that you've been shown this unmanifest form. And that is how Krishna is telling Arjuna that nothing can take you there, but there is that in the middle. There is something that takes you to the center. But it is not what we think right now. It is not the Veda. It is not the Kriya. It is not the action that we are doing right now. It is something specific to the unmanifest. And when it happens, it happens. It doesn't happen because of any action you do at the peripheral, but it is just that experience that happens onto you. Mate vyatha macha vimudha bhavo drishtva rupam ghoramidring mamedam vyapeta bhipritamana punastvam tadeva me rupamidam prapashya. And because I have shown my grace upon you and shown you this unmanifest form that no one in this world is able to see by the actions they do, what you should do is mate vyatha. You should not be terrified. Macha vimudha bhavo. And you should also not sit back. You should also not tremble. Why? Because I know what the experience is, Krishna is saying. I know what the experience is. and I hold the experience within me. What I am telling you is, it is so much terrifying at the beginning, because you are the boundary and you're leaving what you were before. You're having a leap of faith into the unknown, into the unmanifest. So you're going to be scared. You have all that fear within you. But I know that. And because I know that, and I am leading you through that, then you should be vyapetabi. You should not be afraid totally, because I am your friend and I am taking you through. I am allowing you to skip the boundary and go into the unmanifest. Pritamana, not only that you should not be scared, but you should always also be pritamana. You should also have so much love within your heart. That love within your heart is because you're not scared, first of all, because when you're scared, you can't have love at the same time. So first remove the love, for the fear. Then the love can manifest itself. And when you get into the unmanifest, it will only be love that you experience. Tadeva me rupa midam prapashya. That which you are familiar with, that which I am leading you towards, that which you are supposed to see. Such a form I am showing you. So see it and allow yourself to know it. One thing for us to know is, when we get to that stage of the unmanifest, and when we have to leave all our notions behind, when we have to leave all our concepts behind, it is as hard, because we cling to the concepts, knowingly or unknowingly. We always do that. Even though we have made a concept according to Gita, according to the words of Krishna, still a concept is of the mind. A concept is of the intellect. And what the intellect does is to look for things that it has experienced before and add on to that experience. If you have a concept new to you, what you will do is try to measure it with other concepts that you have had before. And that memory will always be there with the concept. Your understanding of the concept will be limited by your past. The way your past is shaped will limit your concept. By that feature of the intellect, you knowing reality cannot base on concepts, because each and every concept is just a new tweak to what you have memorized before, a new tweak to the concepts you have already known from before. And that cannot lead you to the unmanifest. That is manifest. In that intellect, it is always the memory and the new concepts which have been built on the old concepts that you go ahead in the intellect, and that is purely manifest. When we have to leave all our concepts, that is the hardest thing to do. Even though we feel that, oh, I do not live by any concept, I do not live by any, I only want to know reality. But when reality confronts you is when you know how graceful it is or how ungraceful it is for you. The experience is totally yours. How acceptable you are to reality, or how clinging you are to your own concepts. that you will determine by what you are doing right now until you get to the unmanifest. We normally think that, oh, Arjuna couldn't handle the experience of the ultimate. And by having that expression in our mind, we are also encouraging our ego. In other words, we are saying, oh, Arjuna couldn't, I can. But we also have to take a step back. What type of concentration do I have? And what type of concentration did Arjuna have? How did Arjuna receive his education? And how did I receive my education? How is Arjuna's life? How righteous is Arjuna's life? How righteous is my life? What are the notions and concepts that Arjuna is living by? And what are the notions and concepts I am living by? Now, all that, when you compare, we certainly realize that Arjuna is the perfect Nara. He is like the perfect human warrior. There can't be any perfect at that time. And if he is having such a problem with leaving his concepts, with leaving his ideas behind and jumping into the unmanifest, when the unmanifest comes in front of us and we come face to face with it, then we should also know that it won't be that easy to leave our concepts behind. It won't be that easy to accept reality as it is, to just flow by where reality takes you, just flow like that small seedling at the riverbank that just flows by how the river flows. It just flows by how the wind flows. It doesn't resist it. If you can get such an attribute to go by reality, to just dive into reality as it is, not having previous notions about reality, how it should be, because if you think of how it should be, then you have that criteria. When you have the criteria, then you are also expecting something out of reality, which won't be the case when you dive into reality. You won't get those expectations fulfilled. Then you'll get scared. Then you'll not feel the love that reality has for you, that the ultimate has for you. And talking about it is really easy, but experiencing it firsthand is where the problem comes. It is like, normally about this experience, what they normally say is when a man talks about that pain that that is gone through during birth, like labor pain, when a man talks about it, he just talks about it like he thinks about it intellectually. Maybe he thinks about it by other pain that he has ever experienced. But if a lady is talking about it, then it's out of experience and it is first-hand experience. And when a man is talking about it, then it's like, and if he says that, oh, it's really fine, it's like, it doesn't matter and it's not so much, then he's not talking about first-hand experience. That is not something you can base on, because it's just pure out of intellect. It's not out of experience. It's purely just forging a way ahead out of the experience that he has had from before of pain, and then just making it a bit more with his intellect. That doesn't suffice. What has to be done is go through the experience and then say that this is the experience that you go through, and say that how hard it is to go through the experience. That's when we know what the experience feels like. That's when we know what it feels like going into the unmanifest. And why I've talked about birth in this context is, normally when you go into the unmanifest, it's talked about like second birth, dvija in Indian concept. It's like you've gone through a second birth. When you go to the second birth, it's like you have to die at this moment. You have to die with all the concepts that you've built. You have to die with all the notions that you have built and accept what is coming after your birth. And that birth is really difficult. It is that difficult, like going through labor pain. And here, if you talk about it, if you have not gone through that pain, then talking about it just, maybe it just brings a concept about, but without the experience of going through that pain, you can't say that I can go through that pain easily. You can't have that notion even in your mind. It's when you go through that pain is when you will know, can I go through it or can I not go through it?
Yogeshwar, are you there?
Questions or anything at this point?
Oh, okay. So now it's time for questions or comments. Give me 1 second, and I will allow everyone to be able to unmute themselves. So if you have a question or a comment, you can type exclamation mark in the chat or raise your hand in Zoom. So the first one we have is Madhav, followed by Ambika.
When we speak about concepts and how they're the manifest and we have to let go of them, is it true that for a new practitioner or somebody that's a beginner, just saying leave all concepts is not right? You sort of pick the concepts that lead you in that direction. So the concepts of Bhagavad Gita, and then once you get there, then you realize even those concepts are not necessary. So it's more of a path, or is it just from the immediate beginning, do you just give up all the concepts?
Yes, so what the example I would like to give at that point is an example of crossing the river. Yeah, normally what, say there is a point that you are on this side of the river and you have to get to the other side of the river. What happens is they tell you that from this side of the river that you get into the boat, and on the other side of the river you have to get out of the boat. If a person on this side of the river says, when I get to the other side of the river, if I have to leave the boat, why should I get onto it at this point in time? Then there will be a mismatch in that aspect, because he will never get to the other side of the river, which is meant to be where he's supposed to go, and he will always stay on this side of the river. So what is supposed to be done is, you are on this side of the river, that's fine. When you are getting into the boat, you should know that I have to get off the boat on the other side of the river, and accept it. Accept that you have to get into the boat right now, and accept that you have to leave the boat when you get to the other side of the river. Accept the totality of reality. And when you're on the other side of the river, don't stay in the boat, because when you stay in the boat, you're going to stay in the river. You're not going to get to the other side of the river, what it was supposed to be meant to do. So that is the difference between a starting point and then an ending point. They are at two different sides of the river. They may look a bit similar to our eyes, but then when you look at it from this aspect of crossing the river, then we truly understand of how all this, even in the Gita, whether it is chapter 10, where Krishna takes Arjuna step by step, or even it's the previous chapters from 2 to 6, where Krishna is talking about the concepts of Sankhya and Yoga, and having to hold on to these, onto yoga, or concentrating your mind onto one object. All that has been said. And it's not that Krishna has refused everything from the beginning, but Krishna is taking Arjuna through those steps. And when he comes to the last step, Krishna is telling Arjuna that get off the boat now, leave everything that has come with you until now, and if you can leave it, then you can get to the other side of the river.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ambika. And if someone else wants to make a comment, you can either type exclamation point or raise your hand in Zoom. Ambika.
So this is really very beautiful. And when you were discussing and explaining it, and you said you get to the border, and I wondered if the border to cross is deeper inside the core, because outside is the periphery. And then once you take the boat in the river, it felt to me also like time space, a completely different dimension. And I would love to know more about that aspect, if this is actually what it means. And when you get off the boat, what next?
Okay, so first thing is accepting reality, how it is, and knowing who you are right now. So the perspective of the dimension, yes, this is an example given so that we can understand what that rod would look like in totality. So when you talk about this example, it is like getting into the boat from the peripheral towards the center. And you have to use the boat because what they say is Bhavasagara. Yeah. So they call it an ocean, and that is samsara. So the samsara is an ocean. You have to go past it. Use the boat, and when this is talked about, it is an example and it is a metaphor as well, together packed into one, whereby there are all these winds that are going to come, that are going to maybe will take you off course, and you have to look for the winds that are right, taking you towards the right direction, for you to row your boat into the right direction. All those examples and metaphors are given in relation to the real path that you have to take towards the ultimate. That is from the peripheral to the center. It is leaving the manifest and going towards the unmanifest. It is about going towards the ultimate reality as it is. And then at one point, you'll also realize that even the rod that I used was part of Brahman, because what I am right now is also part of Brahman. It's not that Brahman is out there, like somewhere above or somewhere below or anywhere. He is here right now, everywhere. And what has to be done is go onto that path, because we have not realized that Brahman is everywhere. This is just a concept for us. Brahman is everywhere. When we get into the realization, the experience, and we say at that point in time that Brahman is everywhere, then it will be out of experience. It is like talking about love without experience, and then talking about love with experience. Totally two different things, even though the wordings may be the same. Like even a person who has not fallen in love would read books about love, would do everything, literature about love, and will get a feel of love, like what it may feel like when you fall in love. But until he has fallen in love, he doesn't have the experience of love. So whatever he talks about is true in an aspect, but without the experience, he's not saying the truth for himself. He's not saying, like, it's the same thing for Brahman. We are not saying the truth for ourselves, that Brahman is everywhere, until we are experiencing it, until we are into that experience where we become one with Brahman. Until then, that concept helps us to get there, yes. And whatever helps us to get there, we'll use it as a step. Like we've also talked about this concept of using each and every method as a step to get towards the ultimate, one by one. You take step one, you take step two, you take step three. And when you're on step three, what will happen is automatically you will have left step one. It is an automatic process. But you cannot leave step one until your leg is firm on step two. If you leave step one before that, then you're in danger. You'll fall backwards. So all that is on the path towards the ultimate. It's the same. You have to go step by step according to who you are, according to knowing the ultimate, knowing reality of yourself first. So first accept who you are, and then you can accept who Brahma is. If I cannot even accept who I am or accept my actions as they are, then what acceptance do I have that I can accept reality as it is?
Yogeshwar, I have a question. Oh, Ambika, you want to follow up?
Go ahead, I'll ask after you. Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, you were saying, you were talking about taking the right steps, but then you also said you flow wherever reality takes you. So how do you know that you're doing the right step?
Yes, so it is in that perspective, like when you have, when you're in a dark room, right now we're all in a dark room, just imagine that, yeah? When you have a light in one direction, you don't have to tell anyone to go into that direction. It is an automatic reflex that you're going in that direction. What I'm talking about going in the wrong direction is you're leaving the light and you're going in the opposite direction. So it is an automatic reflex. It's like go where the ultimate is leading you. What we are sometimes doing is going where our senses are taking me, yeah, or going where my intellect is taking me. Rather, we have to go towards what reality is showing us. Like reality is like that light that is always there. It's like, you know, Gyaneshwari talks about the sun in the middle of the core. It's like at the center there is the sun. If we're going towards the light, we shall see more light as we step towards it. We shall get into less of darkness. So as we're going into it, we also have that experience that we're doing the right thing because we're getting towards the light. Partly it's an automatic reflex, but since we are so much attached to the darkness, we're always running towards the darkness and fearing the light. Because now also that fear is relatively general, because, you know, when we're in a dark room and then we see light just like that, our eyes blind out. Like we can't look at the light directly because it's bright. Like when we're in the dark and then we come into the sunlight, it's the same thing. Our eyes blind out. So that's what is happening, is when reality is showing itself, because our eyes are blinding out. Our eyes, what I mean by our eyes is our whole being, including our intellect, our mind, everything. It becomes blinded out by that light. So sometimes we run towards the darkness. We don't want to look at the light. So now that is what I am talking about, going towards the light. Don't worry about being blinded at this moment. Just try to look at the light, slowly by slowly open your eyes. And then when you're able to look at the light, slowly you can get into and walk towards the light. The same that happens to us when we occasionally walk into sunlight from darkness.
So in,
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Amika.
so so when you have such an experience, you could have glimpses at some time, right? And then here, what I'm hearing is to have the totality of it with the whole being. And then it's also inside the body, not just outside, because all the nadis light up everything. So if it happens also inside and outside, then is there a coming back? Or is there a complete merging and that's it? But then how do people know what you've actually experienced? So how do you send them your poem, your best poem and your best book? You know? So you can still come back, finish the story.
So one thing that is, you know, at that time, everything, just think about, you know, we have so many portraits, like, not portraits, but let's say like we have a statue, yeah, that is totally made of glass. And even the nadis and everything inside is made of glass.
Right.
So think about that. And then there is that light that is at the center. Now that light will light up everything within. And that light is from within. But then a person who is looking from outside, you'll feel that the whole statue is lit up. Like even the outside is lit up because the statue is made of glass. Like even the toes and everything will be lit up. Now, in the same aspect, it is the light from inside that comes outside. It is from the center that the sun lights the peripheral. And when we experience that, even the peripheral is lit. There's nothing that is not lit at that point in time. So everything is Brahmamaya. There's nothing that is without Brahman. And at that point in time, you do not have to think about your greatest poem. It just flows through you from your, because it is like that statue of light or of glass. The light just flows through. There's no obstruction. Like right now, we are statues of maybe clay or wood. When you put a light within, the light doesn't come out. It is like, it only comes out through certain holes only. But when you get into that experience, the light comes out from each and every part of your body, like your whole body, even the hairs of your body show the light. Like you can see that fragrance within that person. It is totally out of perspective. And when that happens, the greatest poem just flows from within to the outside. And that is just a flow of what happens from the within, from the ultimate towards the peripheral. And then you realize that that is how everything is supposed to be. Everything is just supposed to be a flow. Like your body is supposed to be like a flute, whereby the center is blowing in the air. Every tune that is within the flute is from the center. You do not put anything to obstruct You do not put anything to obstruct the flute and its tunes. Everything should just flow from the flute. So it should be hollow within itself for the tunes to come out properly.
How many times have you experienced this, Yogeshwar?
So now we are going to move on to chapter 12.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
No,
Oh, wait.
Yeah. So we stopped on 49. I just wanted to have a break because it was
Oh, we
long.
stopped at 49?
Yes, yes. I
Oh,
just
I'm
wanted to have a
sorry.
break because it was long, and then we shall continue towards 55, from 50 to 55 now.
Okay, my apologies. I wasn't
Yeah.
aware, sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So Sanjay Uvacha Ityarjunam Vasudevastatoktva Swakam Rupam Darshayamasa Bhuya Ashvasayamasa cha bhitamenam Bhutva Punah Saumya Vapur Mahatma. Sanjay is talking about this now to Dhritarashtra, that Krishna has told Arjuna all this. And after saying all this, that you should be okay with the unmanifest and just take a leap of faith into the unmanifest. When you jump into it, everything will be fine because I am showing you the way. And I am your friend. I won't show you a way that is devoid of the ultimate. In that aspect, in that perspective, Swakam Rupam Darshayamasa Bhuya. After having said that, Krishna is showing his previous form to Arjuna now, as he was before. The friend that Krishna was from before, the brother that Krishna was from before, all those relations are back into perspective. And Krishna is in front of Arjuna, how Arjuna wanted him. Ashvasayamasa cha bhitamenam. Why did Krishna do that? Is asvashayamasa. Because Arjuna was getting scared of it. So now Krishna is back into his own form. Soumya Vapur Mahatma. That is how Krishna has become. One point to note here is we normally think that what happens to Arjuna at this point is he reaches the boundary, he looks at the ultimate, and then gets back to his normal routine, like get back to his normal body, and now everything is back to normal. But what we have to know is something has changed totally about Arjuna himself. The personality of Arjuna himself, everything about Arjuna has changed in a way that he has not only reached the boundary, but Krishna has taken him past the boundary, has taken him into the unmanifest. Now, even though Arjuna is seeing Krishna as he was before, as Krishna was looking at him as a perspective of a friend or as a brother or a guru shishya, teacher student, any relation you want to think about, or friends as well. And at that point, one thing we should realize that after Arjuna has had this experience and he has seen Krishna as he truly is, then point one is, even though Arjuna had gone back to his normal form, he wouldn't have forgotten the experience of the ultimate. That is just a by the way. But point two, the main point I want to make is Arjuna stays at the point of the ultimate rather than you coming back. How I would like to put that into an example is like You know, normally when the child is in the womb, it is like he is very satisfied with the conditions in there. It's like it's all good in there. When the child comes out of the womb, he is frightened. He has all this like fear within himself. He doesn't know what he is seeing for the first time. Like he has to breathe from his lungs and all this like new things now. And he's separated from his mother, which he feels should not be the case. He feels that he should get back into the womb. But in this case, that can never happen. After the child is born and the navel is cut, what happens is he gets tuned up with the world. He gets conditioned again with the world. He gets into the tune of the world. He gets to know everything. And within some time, it takes some time, yes, but within some time, he'll stop crying. He will start taking the milk, feeding and everything. It will be normal to him now. So that is what is happening with Arjuna. Like when he has gotten into the second birth, conceptually, when he's gotten into the second birth, there's no returning back after crossing the boundary. Even though you feel that everything is normal, like Arjuna is now feeling everything is normal, but that normal is a step up. It is not back to the same step. And Arjuna himself will say that, oh yes, I can see that Soumya Vapu that I have always seen. I can see that normality within the world that I've always seen. But it is with that step up. It is like looking at the peripheral from the center. And the peripheral will be what it was before. That's fine. But when you're looking at it from the center, the experience is totally different. Arjuna Uvacha Drishtvedam Manusham Rupam Tava Soumyam Janardana Idanimasmi Samvrita Sacheta Prakritim Gataha. After looking at this Manusham Rupa, that form that I have always been used to, how is that form? It is Soumya. It is graceful to my eyes. Idanimasmi Samvrita Sacheta Prakritim Gata. I am back to my normal now. And I've gotten to where my Swabhava lets me back to. And what we normally think here is like, it's just like a rubber band when it's pulled, like Krishna pulled the rubber band. It was pulled, and then when Krishna left it, it went back to normal. But that's not what is happening to Arjuna. What is happening to Arjuna is like that when a child comes out of the womb. The child will get back to normal, but that normal is now different from that normal within the womb. And however much Arjuna now says that I am looking at your form, your human form, and it is good to me. It is like saying that the child is now getting used to, he's not crying, and he's getting used to the environment now. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sudurdarshamidam Rupam Drishtavanasi Yanmama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kankshinaha. Krishna is time and again pointing out this, that what you have seen is not something small. And what Krishna uses is Drishtavan, that which you are seeing. It is not something that everyone sees. Even the greatest of all, they cannot see this, even though they want to see it. Even those who want to see the ultimate, who want to experience the ultimate, do not get to experience it. they always stay on this side of the boundary because they're so much into their own notions and into their own intellect, so much that they can't leave the bond. And when that happens, is Krishna is saying that when you leave the bonds is when you can get towards the ultimate. And that has happened for you. You should be graceful that that experience has happened upon you. And I have brought that experience to you. That experience cannot be known simply, even by the greatest. Naham vedair na tapasa, naham vedair na tapasa, na danena na chejaya, shakya evam vidho drashtum, drishtavanasi mam yatha. Again, Krishna is saying that whether you have known all the Vedas, you know all the Vedas word by word, or you've done so much austerity that even your body is void of any food or any water. It's like you can control your body now. That also doesn't take you towards the ultimate. It doesn't take you towards that leap of faith. Na danena, na chejaya. Nor will it come with so much donations if you have so much money. And neither will it come with so much yajna, with so much sacrifice. Shakya evam vidho drashtum, drishtavan asi mam yatha. The way you've seen me, it's not something small. That's what Arjuna should know here. How you cannot know it, Krishna has said, neither with any of the notions that you know. How you can see it is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya ahamevam vidhorjuna dhyatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. You cannot get to the ultimate using any Vedas, any tapa, any dana, any ijya. Knowing all the Vedas, word to word, austerity at its fullest, donations when you reach, or any sacrifices. None of those take you there. What takes you there is bhakti, ananya bhakti. With ananya bhakti, you can see the ultimate as it is. Not only, you see, what Krishna has done is taking you in steps. Gyatum. First, you'll have a glimpse of it, like you'll know what it is. You'll want to walk towards it. Then drashtum, you'll see it. And not just seeing it like from afar, but tattvena, seeing it and knowing it fully. Like now you can see it in all the dimensions that it is. Not only from one phase, but all the phases that it is in. And then Krishna says, the third is praveshtum chaparantapa. You allowing yourself to merge into the ultimate is only when you can know what the ultimate is only when you can really say that you have seen the ultimate. These steps are there, yes, dhyatum drashtum, but the last step, praveshtum, you have to dive within the ultimate. When you are a drop of water that is distinct from the ocean, you know you are the same water as there is in the ocean. You can also see the ocean, but until you get into the ocean, you do not experience it that you are one with the ocean. You don't experience it that you are the same as the water that is in the ocean. That experience is what Praveshtum is. And another point I would like to make about this verse is Bhaktya Tvananyaya Shakya Aham Evam Vidhorjuna. As you have seen me, only one thing can take you there. Ananya Bhakti. Now, that devotion, that is Ananya. One perspective to look at Ananya is, with that perspective, Na Anya iti Ananya. There is nothing else that you are willing to go towards. There's nothing else in your mind. Everything is pointing towards the center. At that point is when it becomes Ananya, Na Anya. There's nothing else that takes your awareness deviate from the center. Another perspective of Ananya is, one perspective is only having that in your awareness. Another perspective of Ananya is not having anything else in perspective. So two things here. One is having only the center in perspective. Another is having nothing else in perspective. There's nothing that deviates you from there. And you have that connection towards the center, which is Ananya. So both are important. Then one other thing about Ananya that I would like to say is, bhakti, that devotion that we're talking about, it's not that simple. It's like, normally the concept that is brought about devotion is like, those who cannot do anything go into devotion. Those who do not have the guts to hold the knowledge go into devotion. Those who do not want to know about the truth go into surrenderness. They just surrender into devotion. And what I would like to say about that is, Krishna wouldn't say that. Krishna has totally a different perspective of what bhakti is. Krishna has totally a different perspective about what devotion is. And that devotion, it is the devotion towards the ultimate. It is not just a normal, maybe I'll do it one day and then not another day. Maybe I'll have a glimpse and then I'll just leave it. Nothing like that. It is constantly getting towards the center, never deviating from that path. And if you can look at what those Rishi Munis got into, the state in which they got into, that state of bliss that they got into, it is totally out of our perspective. When we talk about love, it is always conditioned. However much we stretch it, it is always conditioned. If we have someone we can love, then we feel love. If we have something in front of us that we love, is when we feel love. But this love is unconditional. It is not conditioned to anything. Like if you have something in front of you, is only when you'll feel love. If there's something in front of you or there's nothing in front of you, love just flows from within, because that is what is. That is what your swabhava is. That is what reality is. Love just flows. You don't even have to make it flow. You don't have to even direct it, because when you direct it, you're conditioning it. It is just like a river that has gotten from the peak of the mountain. It's flowing. Now, it finds its way to the ocean. You don't have to direct the river that go from this path or go from this path. And normally what happens is when you direct it, you'll build dams on it because they help you. Like the dam will help you to get electricity out of the river. But when the river flows automatically, wherever it flows, even though you feel that it is flowing away from the ocean, but the last destination will be the ocean. It will always just flow automatically to the ocean. And that love is just like that. Just let the love flow and it will just flow. Wherever it flows, it will be the ultimate. Wherever your love flows, it will just go towards the ultimate. When you condition it is when you want something out of the love. It is when you are conditioning the love that if somebody loves me, then there should be conditions like, what have they done for me to show their love? And that is conditioning love. Or what have I done for them to show my love? You're conditioning your love. But when you just allow the love to flow from the core of your being, from the center towards the peripheral, and it flows undisturbed, unveiled, it will just flow. All the actions will just happen out of love. You'll not even feel the burden of the action. You'll not also feel the burden of karma. You'll not also feel the burden of pap and punya, of righteous deeds and unrighteous deeds. All those burdens are just taken away. What you are doing is just out of pure love. And when that happens, you are flowing with the flow. You are just as the ultimate is. And wherever the ultimate allows you to flow, you will flow. Mat karma krit, mat paramo, mat bhakta sangha varjita, nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, yasamameti pandava. How does that happen? Normally now we would ask, devotion, yes, okay. But devotion is also something that I cannot bring about. Like when you say that I want to love someone, then it's like you have conditions from the first step. But what should be is that love should happen. It's not something that you should condition. And the magic in love is that which is unconditioned. That is the magic. Just allow love to be wherever it flows, however you wish it to flow. Don't condition it, and don't wish it to flow in a perspective. Just allow it to flow. And that is the magic of love. It just flows in the right direction. It is only a person who knows the right karma. It is only a person who knows what is true, who can really leave everything about his intellect and allow love to prevail. It is that person who has known the truth, who can leave his intellect behind now to flow into the love of the ultimate. Mat karma krit. That's the first step. You only do actions that take you towards the center. Now that shows the devotion that you have towards the center. Mat paramo. Only keep the center as your goal. Only keep the unmanifest as your goal. Nothing else. What should be parama? It should only be according to mat, which is the ultimate. No any other goal should deviate you from that path. Mad Bhakta Sangha Varjita. Mad Bhakta meaning full of devotion towards the center. When this happens, yeah, and this is like a step by step, fully laid out path, how to get to the ultimate. Because just a verse before, Krishna says, nothing else can take you towards the ultimate, whether it is Veda or Tapa. What can take you towards the ultimate is Bhakti. Now, Arjuna will also have that question, how to get there? Because that is unconditioned. And what I know up to now is everything is conditioned. So Krishna is taking him step by step. Mat karma, mat parama, mat bhakta. So now at that point, you'll become mat bhakta. You'll become devoted towards the center automatically without any conditions. When that happens, an automatic step is Sangha Varjita. No attachments will be there. All the attachments to the peripheral will drop out. Not that you have to drop them one by one, they will just slither out. Nirvaira sarve bhuteshu yasamameti pandava. There will be no vaira. There will be no me and you, because you are at the center. When there is me and you is when the concept of vaira, that concept of not liking something can evolve. But when you are from the center, when you're talking from the center towards the peripheral, then everything is one. There is no vaira. There is no not liking. Everything is just love. And when that love is Sangha Varjita, it is devoid of any attachments, then Nirvaira Sarva Bhuteshu is automatic. Because you realize that Sarva Bhuteshu is not something that is
It seems like we have lost, Yogeshwar has lost connection, so we'll give him a few minutes. In the meantime, does anybody have any comments?
sorry.
Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So
No worries.
that person who has done this or who has taken these steps, yes, sir, that person who has done this, Mam Eti, he gets to me. And what Krishna means by getting to me is to getting to the ocean that I am. Realize that I am the ocean in which you have to dive in and become one with. When that happens, you reach me in the true essence, whereby you're not only looking at the ocean from the shores, you're not only like, getting the knowledge by looking at the ocean, but you are diving into the ocean and becoming one with it. That's when you experience what the ocean is, and you experience your true self as it is.
Yogeshwar, are you ready for questions or comments?
Yes, so Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vishwaroop Darshan Yogo Nama Ekadashodhyayah. Om Tat Saditi. Om, that Om which is unmanifest. Tat, that. Sat iti, that Om which is unmanifest is the truth. And in that essence, in Bhagavad Gita, which is an Upanishad, in the context of Brahma Vidya, and in the Yoga Shastra. Sri Krishna and Arjuna are having a dialogue. Within that dialogue, an Adhyaya, which is the 11th, and it is named Vishwaroop Darshana Yoga, comes to an end.
Yogeshwar, so now we are going to take any questions or comments. If you have questions or comments, you can either type exclamation point in chat or raise your hand in Zoom. Now, Jade, did you want to ask a question? I noticed you put an exclamation point at the beginning. Oh, wait, sorry. I have to unmute everyone. Oh, no. Yogeshwar, you're on mute. Oh.
So, any questions or any comment?
Jade is trying to unmute, so let me see. Okay, Jade, can you try now?
Yes. I guess I think it's a question slash observation or observation slash question. It's funny because I've been telling that joke to people about, I don't know if everyone knows it, but it's fairly common. First time I heard it, I was probably about 7 or 8 with, so I'm taking us back a little bit to the previous chapter, I guess, but there was a boat, someone's like stranded at sea, there's a boat that comes, you know, first boat comes, no, 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 God's gonna save me. Second boat comes, no, no, God's gonna save me. Third boat comes, no, no, God's gonna save me. Then they go under and they end up in heaven and they say, God, why didn't you save me? And then God's like, I sent you 3 boats and you didn't jump in. So I've been using that joke a lot. And I find it very interesting that maybe synchronicity, coincidence, divine timing, who knows what. But it's one of those things where when you get to that other side of the river and you get out of that boat, how do I put it succinctly? It makes sense in my mind. I'm just trying to make it make sense in my comment. I feel like even if you're going to the other side of that river with companions and you're not the only one in that boat, I think the thing that is one of the, I want to say it's a steady feature of life, but usually when people get off of the boat, some might stay on the boat, but those who get off, they might go in opposite directions once they get there. So it's one of those things where the destination, once you get off the boat, is not necessarily always clear. And the companions that you will have when you get off to the other side, that's not always clear. So it's this weird thing between, I guess what was also kind of touched on is how things are kind of somewhat predetermined, and yet our choices influence our trajectory. And the juxtaposition between the two, it's just very interesting, because even just the concept of facing reality on your own to get over that river by yourself versus getting over that river with people or others. Because even if you're going over a river, it gets even more, it can get more complicated, it doesn't always, because there's always that thing of where someone is seeing with senses and the other person is not. they're going on that deeper level. So it's always interesting to see the interaction of people who are seeing and experiencing reality on that deeper level, and then people who are just, I don't know, for lack of a better term, going through the motions. So I don't know if any of that sparks, it wasn't exactly phrased as a question, but those are things that just have me curious at this moment and kind of like wondering like how all of this kind of works together. Because if you are on that deeper level and the people that you're around are on that surface level, even if you're on that deeper level, it's the question of, I guess you can make decisions based on the reality that you see, but wouldn't the people who are making decisions not based on reality? It's just very difficult to see how the two, they're like parallel universes. It's like you're living in two meta universes for anybody who knows Marvel. It's like two meta universes that are in one at the same time, because people are living in alternate realities almost. That's it.
Yogeshwar, did you want to respond?
So in a way that we have to realize on our own what the ultimate reality is. One thing is, because we are living in the world, yes, there is a flow of the world, like, because that flow is also there. What you have to realize is there is also a light that the ultimate shows, and that's always there. It's always at the core, and it's always at the center. What we should do is not ignore it, but walk towards it. And when we walk towards it, it is an automatic process that just get to it. Now, what happens is, normally you have the question, what if there is no light for you right now? Like, we're talking about walking towards the light, or when the light is shown in a dark room, you walk towards the light automatically. How do you get the light first? So first thing is, you have to do with what you have right now. That, because even like when you're in the dark, like lights have gone, you have to lit the candle even though it is in the dark. Even though you miss the matchstick like 2 or 3 times, you still have to lit it. It's not like you'll have a light from before and then you lit the candle. It is totally dark. So what will happen is, you have to do a try and error, kind of. But that try and error will be in a conditioned environment. You see, when you have an environment that is normally leading you towards the light, then one thing is, you already know how to light a matchstick. It's just that it is dark. So you may miss 2 or 3 times, but you'll get it. So that perspective, in that perspective is, yes, we all know that we are in the dark and we are walking from our senses, from our emotions or our intellect, our mind. But we have to go above it. What we have to do is use what we have right now. When we use it to the fullest is when we'll know that there's something beyond it. And that is the way to go. Use what you have to the fullest. When that happens is, you'll take the leap ahead. And taking the leap ahead will never happen before you know about yourself to the fullest. At least about what you are right now to the fullest.
Thank
It's
you,
like if you
Yogesh.
never
Oh,
get,
sorry.
yeah, sorry, no, that's fine.
No, go
It's
ahead.
like,
I'm sorry.
it's like if you never get to the boundary, you'll never know there's something beyond the boundary. So know yourself, know your boundaries, and then you'll know what is beyond the boundaries.
Okay, up next we have Ambika.
So I just wanted to, this is a beautiful journey. And I wondered if, if you're in a certain situation where you're pulled in towards the periphery and to more peripheries, that can suddenly at some point in your awareness say, hey, wait a minute, I want to get the other side, come back to the core and go deeper into the river through all the waves. And then what's coming up also is we better hurry before they turn us into transhumans and machines. That agenda is too strong. We really need to hurry and get there to the light now before that goes right, Yogeshwar. I wonder what you think about this, because it's what you,
Yeah, one thing I would like to say is, an example to say is when you take just say we are all like water. Yeah? Because we have already given the example of the water and we want to get into the ocean, like become one with the ocean. So let's say we're all water.
Yeah.
But then you see there's also that water that is in the South Pole or the North Pole, whichever you take. It is ice. It is in the form of ice. And it has become a full island of its own. So what happens is sometimes, even water will become ice. It will become so cold that it will just form in a way. It is still a form of water, but it will be distinct from the ocean. Now, what normally happens is we are so much identified with the ice, and we do not want to fall into the ocean because we'll lose our identity. So that's what's happening with us right now. We want to go to the peripheral, which is like ice, and we want to cling to it. Now, we don't want to get to our normal form, which is just living ourselves just to become the water we are, like just allow ourselves to dissolve into the ocean as it's supposed to be done. And another thing as well is, there's also an essence to why in previous ages, the sages used to go to the forest to meditate. It was not just like they wanted to run away. It's not that they wanted to run away. What the sannyasa was meant for is to give you the environment to get back into your swabhava. When we are here, attached to so many sense objects, attached to so many people, we are looking from the lens of the world. Like we always want to look from the lens of our sense objects, lens of other people. And what happens is when we live so close with ice, we also become ice. So that journey towards the forest was not to run away from what you are right now, but what it was is to get back to your swabhava, not to look from the perspective of another person, or not to look from the perspective of your senses, the attachments, but to look from the perspective of what is. Now look for what is. If I leave everything, what remains? And that which remains is reality. So they go away from the ice, and that act of going away from the ice automatically allows them to get back into the swabhava, which is water. And that is normal, like it happens normally, automatically. So even the sannyasa in the olden days has its own essence.
so just a note about the water. I'm imagining either a river or a lake, and the lake has ripples and depth, and deep inside is also darkness. And it pulls in the light and it pulls in the darkness as the things change. So when you hit bottom, you can either get suffocated or come up to the light. And that is also an internal process, isn't it? Because we are made of water and everything else there, the tides. We are the tides too. So
Yes.
connect
So
back to that light.
yeah. So always, why it is called the light? Like everywhere, even in the Gita, or anyone who has had meditative experiences in their writings, they always call it the light. One thing to know, it's metaphorical, yeah, truly metaphorical, because there's no like light like the substance light that we are seeing with our eyes. But what the light there means is it is an automatic direction that you go towards. Like it's like that candle that is lit and then it shows everything to you. And it is that automatic light towards which you automatically go when there is darkness everywhere else. So it is that knowledge that you will now go towards. One thing to note is you'll have to go through the darkness. That is one point, and very important point, because when you go through it, if you had not known it before that you have to go through the darkness, you may come back from the darkness. Like you may face now towards what you were before now. Because going through the darkness is really important. It's like coming out of the womb. And it is that painful because you have to leave all the concepts behind. Like going through the darkness is one point, and then reaching the light is another point. When you reach the light, then you essentially realize that this is who I've always been. It's like a normal process for you now. And at that point, you also realize that everyone who has not also reached the light is within the light. And they're already one with the ocean. It's just that they do not know. There's no process in it. So all the process that is being talked about is just for us to accept it as it is.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Just one point before I go to Jade. I just wanted to let you know that I'm really getting the point about unconditional love when you were talking about it tonight. And so what I got is that, you know, the concept of we expect when people love us that we expect certain things, and that just puts a condition on it, and it's not true love. And I think like sometimes, especially uh here in America, I don't know about anywhere else, obviously, but we always say that person loves you if they do these things. Like it's always like a list, and to me, I had this idea, like, love is an action, and people will show you how to love you. But then when people show, if that's not what you have in your mind, if that's not your expectation, then you say it's not love, and then you automatically dismiss it and dismiss the person. So I think it's just beautiful when you were talking about unconditional love and no expectations, and no expectations on that love. So that's what I got. Up next, we have Jade.
I think the unconditional love thing is very interesting because my mother, for a large part of her time, was just studying love. It's 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 an interesting concept because it's very hard to do, because when we think about the things that humans do to each other, it it leaves the door open to a lot, and especially I guess especially when I'm looking in the modern Western world, is very difficult, because I was even having a conversation with someone whose aunt actually turned out to be their mother. And the whole conversation within there was that when he found out, he didn't talk to the mother about it. He found out when he was probably in his 20s. He didn't talk to his mother about it until he was in his 50s, because his mom couldn't tell him that she was really his mom, when he thought his whole life until 20s that it was his aunt. And his children kind of asked him, well, how, well, when you didn't ask her, and what, and I kind of look at it in relation of now, where when parents do things that are difficult, it's automatically nowadays the thing of, my parents, they didn't care, as opposed to recognizing that whatever it was a struggle. Because even that mother couldn't tell the son. The son asked the mother for a birth certificate because he was going to the army. That's why in his 20s, he learned that it wasn't his mother. But the mother couldn't tell him. The mother sent him to the neighbor. And so within that, he was empathetic enough and caring enough, and didn't want to cause his mother any more strife. So he kind of held on to it as long as I guess he could, and then he spoke to her about it, as opposed to making accusations about the lack of love due to the fact that, I don't know, human fallibility and not just knowing how to handle the situation. But I think that also brings me back to the boat and two people seeing things, being at two different levels of awareness. Because one of the things I joke about when I talk about the boat, and I'm almost done, is that, sometimes the boat that you get is not the best boat out there. You might get a boat that has broken glass, holes, like exposed nails, and like a rudder that doesn't work, and no paddles, and you got to figure it out. And then, but if you are aware of the reality of what you're getting into, you can jump into that boat kind of knowing that it's not going to be without consequence, but you've elected to go in there because you know that the consequences are very much so worth it, because they're outweighed by the benefit, which is saving your own life if you're stranded out at sea with nothing. And so, but then if you're going down further down this river to the other side, and someone else jumps in and they don't recognize the conditions of the boat, and they don't recognize also the reality of what those conditions mean, because sometimes we will recognize the conditions, but we won't recognize what they mean or the consequences, whether positive or negative, of those conditions. That person jumps in the boat and their experience is completely different. And so they're like completely miserable because they see it as, I guess, like another dire circumstance that they're put in. They were taken from one dire circumstance to be put into another one. They're not focused on the fact that they're going to get to the other side of the river and their life is going to be saved. They're just like, I'm going to get cut up, I'm going to da-da. But the person who went in recognizing the actual consequences and saying that these consequences, I'm aware of them, I'm willing to do what I can to mitigate those risks. And you know what, even if there are consequences, it's worth getting to the other side. That person on that trip is grateful. And then it brings me back to that thing of like unconditional love, because I think it gets hard for people with those two different mental states to love each other, because there's always a rift, because they get on their nerves, because they both agitate each other, because they can't, one probably wants one to see like the optimistic side, and the other one is trying to see, one's looking at it half empty, one's looking at it half full. And when the two of them put it together, they get the full perspective. So the idea of getting that balance is probably somewhere between the two, because you know what, it really does suck that you're in a boat that has glass, no holes, and all this other stuff. But it's really great that you guys are going to at least maintain your lives and maybe get medical care that will bring you back to baseline. So I don't know, all of that's really, I don't know if any of that made sense, the way I explained it and the anecdote that I kind of made up, but I think this whole thing is complex because of the different levels of awareness is sometimes based on perspective and temperament. And I think a large part of reality and our interpretation of it isn't just about the light. It's about,
Hey, Jay,
there's
is there
something
a
else, there's
question
something
in
tempers
there?
it. I I guess it's more what he thinks about those thoughts. I think that's where the question is.
Yogeshwar, do you want to comment?
No, it's fine. No comments.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments, or do you want to say what you got out of tonight? If you have a question or a comment, you can type exclamation point in chat or raise your hand in Zoom. Joyty.
Yeah, hi Yogeshwar. About the unconditional love. In many cultures, including ours, Indian culture, when a son is born, there are many celebrations and there is happiness and joy and what have you. But there's an underlying agenda because the parents are thinking, okay, now that we have a son, we'll be taken care of when we are in our old age. And I mean, they don't raise, I mean, they raise a child with love and affection. It's not, it is true that, but when there is an agenda that will be taken care of by our son, that's why we are happy. That's not unconditional love. Am I right, Yogeshwar?
Yes, so any condition you've put to it, whether it is about taking care of yourself, or it will be of help to me, or it will help me get through my life, anything. If you put a condition, what will happen is when expectations are not met, love will fade away. Like, that's not unconditional. You've already put a condition to it. Because where there is something like, I want this out of this relationship, that is not a relationship that stands on its own. What that relationship is standing on is just those expectations that you have. When those expectations drop out, the relationship will just fade away. That's not unconditional. That's totally conditional. It's like you've put all the conditions in place from before, and this has happened. So that's not unconditional at all. What unconditional is just no expectation out of it. Whether it is whether it's a boy or a girl, it's that same celebration that happens out of your life. It is just the celebration of a birth of a new member. That's it.
Yeah.
No expectations out of it, no conditions put to it.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And can I ask one more question?
Is it quick? Because I know Preeti wants to go. I just wanted to give her the opportunity.
Why don't Preeti go first and then I can ask?
Okay. Preeti, you're up next.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for explaining the concept of the river and the Pavsagar and crossing it. I've heard that so many times, but I finally feel like I understood it for the first time. So thank you for that. Also had a question. Earlier you said, remove fear from your heart and love will manifest on its own in your heart. So my question is that where bhakti comes in or the devotion comes in? Like, does the Gita talk about how to remove fear from your heart? Because sometimes that feels easier said than done.
So all these perspectives are truly easier said than done. That is a truth. That's why that experience that Arjuna's had is difficult to conceptualize at this time. Because when we are talking about it in words, it feels so easy. Like when we get to reality, we'll be able to pass through it like easily. But when it happens, when that experience happens to us, it is totally another thing. So the question about bhakti, that is what unconditional love is. If we want to love something, then we'll have all the conditions that we have set up because we want to love it. What unconditional love is, get rid of everything that is not supposed to be there. Like, and how that will be is facing who you are. Like, how to get rid of all the fear that you have right now is getting to know who you are first. Who am I? What am I made out of? Right now, whom do I feel I am? And accept it, that fine, this is who I feel I am. All the intellectual properties that you have, all the mind that you have, all the senses that you say are right, fine, accept it. Then you can take a leap ahead after accepting it, that this is who I am right now. Accept it, know your boundaries, and then allow yourself to dissolve the boundaries, because that is an automatic thing. Like, you know, it's like, what do you fear? You only fear something that you have a notion about before. For example, if a kid goes near fire, he won't fear the fire because he doesn't have a notion of it will burn me from before. Or if a kid gets next to a snake, he won't fear it. You'll only start fearing it when the snake bites him for the first time. After that, the kid will start fearing the snake because he's had an experience with the snake now. So that's the same thing that happens here. What we fear is because of our past notions about what we have experienced. What we have to do is get rid of all that, because that is the peripheral. Past notions, all our past experiences, our senses, and then go towards the ultimate, go towards what is unmanifest. When that happens, we will fear first because we are leaving all our, what we know, all our mind, all our intellect behind, all our senses behind. It will be difficult at first. But when it happens, we'll realize that it has always been what we were. It is just our normal being that is happening out right now.
Thank you, Preeti. Up next, Druti, you wanted to do a follow-up question?
Okay. I just need some clarification, Yogeshwar. You were saying when you come from darkness to lightness, it's almost like rebirthing, but you find everybody else in the light. I didn't quite understand that.
So when Brahma is radiating from within you, Brahma is not only at the center. What I'm trying to point out there is Brahma is at the center. It's also at the peripheral at the same time. All the manifest is based on the unmanifest. And the manifest is a way the unmanifest shows itself to you. So the essence of the unmanifest is there in the manifest as well. There's nothing void of the unmanifest. It's always there. That point is essential. And right now we're just talking about it, but when you realize it, when you experience it, the experience that happens onto you is that it was always lit by the unmanifest. The manifest was always lit by the unmanifest. It's just that I did not have the eyes to see it. That is all that was there. And when you realize that is when real knowledge happens onto you, is when you get the real perspective to look at the world.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Thank you, Jyoti. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, then I just wanted to thank everyone for coming, but I also wanted to point out that we will be, and please correct me, Yogeshwar, if I'm wrong, but we will be starting with chapter 12, verses 1 to 7 tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Thank you. So I just want to thank you, Yogeshwar, and thank everyone for coming and for participating tonight. This has been a great meetup. I think I know for myself, I've gotten so much out of this meetup that I will probably have to break my own rule and watch myself host just to rewatch this, just to get everything. So I want to thank you. So again, I want to thank everyone and have a good night.
Thank you, Evanik. Thank you,
Thank-
Yogeshwar. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Vanu.
You're welcome.